All week long leading into Sunday's game, we heard Joe Burrow and the Bengals say that they don't feel like underdogs, even though Vegas had the Bengals as a 6-point underdog entering Sunday, and they showed exactly how and why they are not underdogs. They are heading back to the AFC Championship game in Kansas City after handling the Bills 27-10. The term complimentary football is cliche, but there's no better way to describe the Bengals' performance than that among many other big plays on both sides that are sending them to the AFC Championship in back-to-back seasons for the first time ever in franchise history. Welcome into another postseason, post-game edition of the Strictly Stripes podcast. Muhammad Ahmad, Andrew Gillis, and Mike Nizick with you from Highmark Stadium in Orchard Park, New York. And guys, I think one of the big things we talked about was, where is the Bengals' killer instinct? Where did it go? With the way they played against Tampa Bay, the way they played against New England, kind of the weird second half they had against Baltimore, both in Week 18 and the playoffs, made you kind of question that. There was no lack of killer instinct today from Joe Burrow. 9 for 9 to open the game. First 2 drives, 2 touchdowns, 2 wide open tutties to Jamar Chase and Hayden Hurst. And from there, the Bengals were just cruising to the win. And, to hold Josh Allen and the Bills to 10 points or fewer, you just got to – I think you can just start there and expand on that. Talk about complimentary football. That was complimentary football.
Yeah, this was probably the best game, I think, when you consider the opponent and consider the environment. We saw it walking in, this place was really loud. Place was packed. It was snowing. It's a divisional game. Bills fans know it's the last home game of the year for them. This was a really, really raucous environment. This was not an easy place to play. And, I have the statistics right in front of me. And I think they're kinder to the Bills than kind of what actually happened, because the Bengals kind of whipped their ass. It was 14-0 within, I don't know, how many minutes was that?
12 minutes into the game.
Yeah, they go right down the field. They score in 3:20. They get a quick stop. They get the ball back. Then they go on a 10-play, 72-yard drive, and it's 14-0. And then, I remember we were kind of talking in the press box with some other, okay, here come the Bills. Okay, now they're going to counterpunch. Okay, here comes their counterpunch. They cut it to 14-7. Bengals made it a 2-score game again. Bills come out of the half. They make it 17-10. Bengals go back and they make it a 2-score game again. The Bengals really didn't let the Bills up off the mat. You can look, like I said, you can look at the stats. Josh Allen threw for more yards than Joe Burrow did. You can look at kind of the total yardage and say, okay, well, this isn't terrible. The interception that Josh Allen threw, it was garbage time. It didn't really matter. But the statistics really, I don't think, did a good job of kind of displaying how well the Bengals played today.
Oh, absolutely.
They were just outstanding in really every facet of the game. And it's hard not to be incredibly impressed with how well they played today.
Yeah, and I didn't think Burrow put the game away. I thought Joe Mixon did.
Absolutely.
In terms of running late, which was something they've lacked kind of in the last 3 games they've gone up early. They just haven't been able to run the ball. He had 105 yards, 5.3 yards per carry, and looked very strong. I think that was part of their success throughout the game. One thing that you guys haven't mentioned yet, but I'm surprised, and I thought Buffalo let them off the hook a little bit in terms of, this game was going a very specific direction that Cincinnati looked like they were kind of in control. Buffalo punts at the end of the half from their 41-yard line.
I will defend that punt. I think that was a smart punt.
But
I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying.
So 4th and 10 at the 41 with less than a minute to go in the half.
Yep.
Settles for a field goal. 4th and 7 at the 7-yard line to start the third quarter.
Yep.
That drive nearly lasted 8 minutes.
Yeah.
And so it took, there was really only 2 drives in that third quarter, sort of limited the amount of time they had to come back. And then again, Cincinnati goes up 24-10. At the end of the quarter, they have it at the 20-yard line. And I know that's not a good field position, but it felt like the game was there.
Yeah.
4th and 2, so obviously a very makeable situation. The analytics, I think, said in that situation they should have gone for it.
Really?
And at the end of the first half, they should have gone for it. I'm not sure with the 1 of 4 and 7, but it felt like the Bengals were in control basically from the get-go.
Yeah.
They were the aggressor the entire game, and playing with a 2-possession lead, it just felt like this game was out of reach for Buffalo, and then they were conservative at times where it really felt like they needed I know they weren't good situations for them,
Sure.
but it felt like they handed the Bengals sort of like, we're just not, we don't have it.
The questions that I had about the Bills was kind of like you said. I think they were conservative when they needed to be aggressive, and aggressive when they needed to be conservative. Like at the end of the game, they were down 17 and they went for it on fourth down. I would have kicked the field goal there because you needed a field goal. You needed 3 scores at some point.
Exactly.
Might as well try and make that a 2-score
that's what the
game
Jags
right there.
did against Kansas City. Same thing.
I didn't understand kind of their game management, but I don't really think it would have mattered when you have Burrow playing like he did. And also, we definitely need to praise the offensive line,
absolutely,
right, as early as we can. You're talking about Jackson Carman making his first start at left tackle. Obviously, it's kind of difficult to judge how good an offensive lineman plays in an individual setting, just on first watch. But I mean, Jackson Carman kind of felt like he held his own. Absolutely. There was a play that they ran near the goal line on a toss play, and he just absolutely exploded Tremaine Edmonds.
Into the sideline.
Great block. Yeah. Max Sharping, second start at right guard. Hakeem Adeniji, third or fourth, whatever this was, start at right tackle. Like Ted Karras playing with a bum right knee that the CBS broadcast had. So you're talking about an offensive line that was either injured or starting guys who typically are not starters, and you allow 1 sack. And you run the ball for 5.1 yards a carry, and your starting running back averages 5.3 yards a carry.
Absolutely.
That's a damn good day. And I don't like it. It really is crazy to kind of think about what I mean, Muhammad. What did you say during the week? Like we were all kind of talking about the over under of sacks and like where you take the over. I think we said 3.5 or 2.
We said 3 to 3.5.
Yeah, like we were like I'd probably lean over on that. I mean, the offensive line did a really, really good job.
Shame on us.
And I mean, look what happens when that happens. I mean, Joe Burrow had a couple the throw to Jamar was ridiculous.
The first touchdown or the one that wasn't a touchdown?
Well, the one that wasn't a touchdown.
That really should have been a touchdown. But
I don't know.
There's a debate there, but it was an amazing throw.
He had another throw over the middle to Hayden Hurst where he threw it over a linebacker, in between a closing linebacker and a safety. Burrow really was excellent today. And when you give him time, I mean, hell, I don't know how many quarterbacks in the league you can keep 1 or 2 that are as dangerous as Burrow when he's got time to operate.
And I mean, that's the thing is again, shame on us for just thinking, it's going to be a 3, 4, 5 sack day for Joe Burrow. The 1 sack that was given up, it was just Jackson Carman.
It felt coverage sacky.
Yeah, it was a coverage sack. Jackson Carman just got missed from, I believe it was Matt Milano. Milano kind of came around and stunned him a little bit on a stunt. But other than that, and maybe 1 holding call that Carman had, which granted, again, first start at left tackle, there's going to be some rust. So that's not even a criticism. That's just the fact that he only allowed 1 sack, only 1 penalty. That's great. I think people, including us, obviously, would have anticipated the opposite. And so just imagine if you had Jonah Williams, if you had Alex Kappa, if you had Lyle Collins. I mean, just imagine how many more rushing yards Burrow could have had, how many more rushing yards Mixon could have had. Not they didn't have a lot. They did great, but just imagine how much more explosive this could have been.
I disagree with you because I think you kind of maxed out what you could get out of Burrow and out of Mixon. Mixon, 20 carries, 105 yards, and a touchdown. I don't know how much better you're going to get.
There were
with
1
Jonah.
or 2 runs in the first half where I thought Mixon was gone. It was 1 or 2 runs. I'd have to go back and watch the film. But that's an extra 20, 40 yards right there.
I just don't know how much better that could have gotten today, which, I mean, you said, shame on us for saying that. I don't know if it's shame on us necessarily, because if it is, then it would be shame on everybody.
Sure,
I just really think it's congratulations to that offensive line.
Yeah.
Because I think, what happens a lot is when an offensive line is terrible, kind of like you saw last year in the divisional round where Joe Burrow gets sacked 9 times. Again, not all of them specifically the offensive line, but
yeah, exactly.
They always are the first ones to draw the blame.
Sure.
So I think today they need to be, if not first, they need to be really high on the list to draw the credit because, they did a really, really nice job today. And, Joe Burrow, 23 of 36 for 242 yards. That doesn't happen if the offensive line isn't playing as well as they did.
Well, it helps that the play calling was so good. And the offense was so effective on early downs. They really weren't in a passing situation, obvious passing down at all. They went down the field to start the game in 6 plays, had 4 first downs. 2nd and 4, 2nd and 3 were the worst it got. Same thing on the second drive. The longest third down was 3rd and 7, which they ended up converting.
Yeah.
So they just were playing, and they were on schedule, as Zach Taylor likes to say. So they called the game to their sort of to make it easier on the line, and running the ball, I think helped mixed it up and allowed it. There wasn't many pressure situations. Obviously the sound, it was the crowd noise was loud. They dealt with that, but there really wasn't a moment. They were up 14-0, and then never was a moment after that where, like I said, Buffalo had the sort of pressure on.
And I think to that point, not only was the pressure on them, like Andrew said, they played kind of conservative. They didn't just play conservative. I think they played a little bit scared. They played a little scared because, I get it, you trust Josh Allen to make those magical plays, but those never really happened. He really didn't do anything fancy today. Every time, I'll give him credit. He avoided a lot of sacks. He should have been sacked at least 5 times today. So I'll give him that. But what did he do beyond that? Throw it out of bounds. Miss Stephon Diggs. Maybe get 1 or 2 yards.
That one drive where he had a hand on him every time and made one-handed throws off balance, made a lot of completions.
I'm on Mike's side.
But how much though? They only scored 10 points. How much of that was?
262 yards. I know they didn't relate to points, but as far as Allen goes, I don't necessarily think that. He had the one ball down the sideline that was knocked out. That should have been a catch.
The one, are you talking the Gabe Dave throw?
Yeah.
That was great. Great play by Cam Taylor-Britt. Absolutely. But
and I'll get to Cam Taylor-Britt in a second. But
they didn't have the ball. They ran 7 plays in the first quarter. It's not all on Josh Allen. He had 1 interception.
It's not. No, it's not all on him.
The game was well in hand. I didn't think this was sort of his fault. It falls on the defensive shoulders that they couldn't. They looked like they were messed those first 2 drives, and then after that, really couldn't get off the field on third downs consistently, and that was where the game was decided. They're playing catch up, and just I don't think that's where they had it in them. And it just felt like the last 4 weeks, as opposed to sort of galvanizing them with the Damar Hamlin situation, it felt like they just, emotionally drained. Would look like a team that was a little tired.
Well, which is
like a team that was sort of out of sorts a little bit.
I don't know.
Scared. I don't know about that. I just think that they just didn't feel like they had the energy. That they matched the Bengals' energy, especially to come out at the start.
Yeah, I think that's. I don't know, because I came.
It's impossible to measure.
Right.
My point is, in the first quarter, it was clear one team had the energy and one team
was
absolutely.
You have to give the Bengals a ton of credit, because if you would have said which team's going to have the energy coming out, you would have said Buffalo.
Toss. Would you have taken the ball?
No, I think they did the correct thing by going on defense, because
I agree.
Again, you mentioned the energy there. This is one of the tougher places to play in the league.
Absolutely.
It's snowing. It's very, very loud.
Would you see
it's very,
what
very
the
cold.
Bengals have done getting ahead right out of the game?
Right.
So would you take the ball just to interrupt that?
And
if you score,
no,
because
I wouldn't.
No, because I think the risk reward. I think the risk is greater than the reward there, because
but it's a situational
if you get stopped, then all of a sudden the Bengals have the ball and you're giving them kind of the chance to do that back to back.
I know what the downside is, but I'm saying given what the Bengals' body of work, I think outweighs the. Obviously, you don't get the 2-for-1 at the end of the half,
right? But that's the scary part.
But you weren't able to. They didn't. I know the results. You can't cherry pick, but they weren't able to take advantage of it anyway.
I'd rather have the ball coming out of the second half, no matter what happens, because let's say the first half doesn't go your way, you pick right back up, and like I said, they had the ball coming out of the second half, and they cut it within 1 score. So in that sense, they were right. They cut it to a score, and they kind of had that momentum coming back until the Bengals defense stopped them. But I wasn't trying to say all of it's on Josh Allen's fault. I really do think a lot of it is on the play calling, and I think that's a lot of it goes on Sean McDermott and the other play callers. But no, I'm just saying with Allen, look, he made the one-handed throws. He avoided, again, I think he should have been sacked 5 or 6 times. If I was any other quarterback, the Bengals defense would be getting even 10 times the praise they're getting now. But it's just, even when he made those throws, there were so many times where he just ran into a brick wall. Okay, he didn't get a sack, but he got 2-3 yards. He kind of got pushed out of bounds. There were just times where it seemed like instead of trying to break a tackle against Jesse Bates, he would just kind of run out of bounds. Normally I've seen Josh Allen just bulldoze his way like a tight end. Lou Anarumo described him as a tight end. I'm just why is he going out of bounds? I'm not in that situation. I can't fully speak for him, but it just kind of doesn't look like the Josh Allen that I saw the first 6 weeks of the year. And maybe that goes back to, again, the injury, the elbow, because there was a point where on their, I think, second to last drive, he went back into the tent for a minute and came out. So clearly he had some pain he was dealing with, and we don't know exactly what it was because we weren't, talking to him. But, again, I just think that, it's not all on him. But if you're talking about what Allen did wrong, I just think that he wasn't like the tight end bulldozer we've seen him as. But to go back to the Bengals defense, like we mentioned, Cam Taylor-Britt, he is not a rookie anymore. He is not a rookie. I mean, first of all, congrats to him. He has his first pick of his career, and I mean, it came in garbage time, but a pick is a pick. And the only other Bengals cornerback to get an interception this year was Trey Flowers, who didn't even play in this game. And speaking of which, Dax Hill, he had some big pass breakups on Dawson Knox because they primarily put him as that slot corner guarding Dawson Knox, which is what Trey Flowers usually does on tight ends. I think he did a pretty good job today. I know Knox had like 52 yards receiving, but the times that he defended him looked really good. And it's quite the rebound from a game where Hill had 3 penalties, mostly on special teams, but looked a lot cleaner today. But, man, Cam Taylor-Britt, I mean, to be inserted in this situation where Chidobe Awuzie tears his ACL on Monday Night Football, and we were saying what in Cleveland, Andrew? DEFCON, level 3, 5. We were talking about how just worried the Bengals secondary should be. There's really nothing to worry about when you got Cam Taylor-Britt. Eli Apple, he had a big pass breakup on 4th down where, like you said, the Bills should have kicked the field goal, but they went for it, and it didn't work because of Eli Apple. Plays like that, man, just shows you that secondary. They brought their stuff. They really did.
Yeah, I mean, since that, you mentioned kind of that Cleveland game, like it's kind of crazy to think about now because, Cam Taylor-Britt mentioned this when I was talking to him in the locker room. He mentioned, it's kind of crazy that at least the Bengals feel they've been kind of disrespected throughout this whole process, whether it was, the coin toss thing, the neutral site thing, by the way, the refund thing, I've been saying this all week. Michael Jordan literally created something that somebody said out of thin air to motivate himself. Like, every year that the Patriots would go back to the Super Bowl, they would say, nobody believes in us anymore. They're saying we're done. Nobody ever said that. So you got to find ways to motivate yourself, and this team did it. So the refund thing, I get it. Like, Max Sharping kind of had a funny line where, I asked him, is there motivation here for you guys? Like, it seemed like it. And he goes, well, we talked about it during the week, but, I get it. They sell tickets before every game. So, this team is really motivated, and I thought Cam brought up an interesting point when he was talking about that. He was like, since the Cowboys loss, which they lost their first 2 weeks on a walk-off field goal, then you win 2 in a row, you go to Baltimore, you lose on a walk-off field goal, so you have 3 walk-off losses in the first 5 weeks. You get your butts kicked against the Browns on Monday Night Football. But since that Week 2 loss, they've lost twice. Like, they've won, what is it now? So they won 8 in a row to end the regular season, and they've won 2 playoff games
so
now.
They've won 10 straight.
They've won 10 straight games.
Breaking their own record they set last week.
Yeah, they're winners at 10 straight right now. This is the hottest team in football, and they're
49ers would like a word.
Have they won?
They've won
how many?
9
Have
or
they
10.
They've won one more.
They've won.
So if they win tonight, they'll have one.
Well, yes. What is it? Actually, we'll have to look up what that
yeah,
score
as
is.
we're taping this,
But yeah,
right
anyway, that's what. So they're the hottest team in the AFC.
There you go.
Yeah, thanks for the correction, Mike.
The 49ers are winning 9-6 at halftime.
Wow.
They are the hottest team.
They are the hottest team in the NFL. So excuse me,
Well,
but
the Bengals
the Bengals are the hottest team.
that.
The Bengals are the hottest team in the AFC, at least record-wise. So, it's kind of crazy because you think about where we were, and like Muhammad said, the conversations we were having, and now they're 1 win away from the Super Bowl. It's pretty nuts.
We were wondering, the concern wasn't, are they going to win a division? The concern was, are they going to get into the playoffs? We were asking these questions because Jamar Chase was hurt, Chidobe Awuzie, we pretty much kind of had a feeling his season was going to be over, and then sadly for him it was. Drew Sample was already on IR, so aside from Hayden Hurst, you have to rely more on Mitch Wilcox, which, by the way, he had some great blocks today. Wilcox did. And I'd like to see the PFF grades, but, there's a reason why he gets so much praise from the coaching staff is because, since Drew Sample went down and when Hayden Hurst was hurt for 3 games, they relied on him a lot, and he's done as expected. But to kind of just, look at the Bengals offense again, Joe Burrow this is every game, obviously, but as much as he made it sound like it was just a regular game, regular performance, which goes back to, I think, a mixture of his humility and his confidence, which people mistake for cockiness, but it's really confidence. Again, the snow is coming down. It's cold. And Andrew said it. This is one of the toughest places to play the National Football League. I don't care how many stadiums you've been to. I could see why this is a tough place to play with the weather, the acoustics. And this is kind of...
You might be playing in a tougher one next week, but we'll get to that.
But that's the thing, though. He's played in a tougher place, which is Arrowhead Stadium. He was there around this time last year for the AFC Championship. So Joe Burrow, exactly 1 year removed from that comeback win in overtime, is going back to Arrowhead. He said himself, word for word, it's the toughest place he's played. But when you've already played in Arrowhead, you play in Highmark Stadium. In college, he plays in Death Valley in Baton Rouge. He plays at Gillette Stadium in December. I mean, is there really any stage that's too big for Joe Burrow? I mean, the answer is obviously yes, but when you really think about it, just how amazing is it to see just how confident he is this early in his career, playing in these kinds of venues like it's just nothing to him. In some ways, it's just, I don't know, it's kind of crazy to comprehend.
I mean, he's good.
Yeah, he's good. We all agree on that.
I think we need to pile on praise. I mean, he handles himself with confidence. I mean, obviously the moment's not too big. I mean, go back to his high school career, his college career. He said, laid the groundwork for that success. Won a championship in college, and those things add up. That you are able to handle whatever's thrown your way, and so I think this coaching staff has done a good job of unlocking that even further and putting him in a situation where he feels that he has ownership of the offense, ownership of the team, and I mean it's clear that they go as Joe Burrow goes. I mean, that's what Tyler Boyd always says when you ask him about the team's chances. He says, we got Joe, and so I mean I think that's what you get from the players in the locker room as well, is that that confidence has given them the belief that they can, win the Super Bowl again get to the Super Bowl again this year and then win it this year.
Yeah, Cam Taylor-Britt kind of said something similar also in my conversation with him. Like, he mentioned, like, we don't have to go out there and do anything extra. We don't have to go out there and do anything crazy. Like, the defense took the field today with having not played a snap, up 7-0, and then Buffalo went 3 and out on that first drive.
They did. They went 3 and out on their first 2 drives.
So they went 3 and out, and then so you play 3 plays, and then you get the ball back, or the Bills get the ball back, and they're down 14. Like, Josh Allen has run 3 plays, and he's down by 2 touchdowns. Like that, I think that matters for the defense. And Cam was kind of talking about that. Like, listen, we know our offense is going to score, and we have Joe Burrow. We don't have to do anything crazy. We just got to hold them as best we can, create some turnovers, and we know we're going to be fine because the offense is going to score. So
even Joe Burrow said, and he said this obviously objectively, like, this team is just a lot better than last year. Not that last year wasn't good, but he said the O-line is better, our running game is better, our defense is better. And, like, that goes to the point that, I think, we've asked Brian Callahan about this. Zach Taylor's been asked about this repeatedly since, the beginning of the year. Like, is there some kind of feeling of disrespect that, before the season started, a lot of critics and pundits kind of put Buffalo and Kansas City in one category and just kind of forgot about the Bengals, even though Burrow had a great year, even though Jamar Chase was an All-Pros rookie year, even though they got to the Super Bowl, which is as hard as it can get with anything else in football. It showed that was not a fluke. Even if, for whatever reason, they don't beat Mahomes and Arrowhead next year, the fact they've made it this far cancels out any critics that, it was just one time. People tried to compare it to,
I don't think that's what I think the narrative was that the tiers, they were in a separate tier.
That it was the Chiefs and the Bills 1 and 2. Yeah.
I don't think
I
anybody
agree
said
with
that
Mike.
this was a fluke team that wasn't going to get back. I just think that
because of those teams in that tier, that they weren't going to be able to beat that.
It wasn't that
the Bengals were like bad. Yeah, I think
they were bad. They weren't going to be able to beat like the Chiefs or the Bills, and they've already beaten them each this year, and they just beat the Bills in
the playoffs. My point is that it wasn't that this team was always expected to be a contender. It was just how what was their ceiling, and they've obviously proven, I think, that it's higher than some expected.
Exactly.
But I don't think.
I think
sort of like looking at this roster and saying that they were a bad team or didn't deserve to make.
Nobody really.
And that's not even what Burrow was saying. He was saying they've always had a good team, but they are just that much better this year with just, again, the running game improving like we saw today, having a rookie like Cam Taylor-Britt step up, having the offensive line they have, even their backups today. That's what he was implying, that they've always been a good team, but they are that much better that they should be in that top tier with Buffalo and Kansas City.
Well,
that's where some people, I think, got it wrong before the beginning of the year. They definitely got that wrong.
That matters. The Bills were the Super Bowl favorites, I think, the betting favorites going into the year.
They were, yeah.
And then, when was that game? Week 5, Week 6, the Bills beat the Chiefs in Kansas City, and everybody kind of said, okay, well, the Bills have.
I believe it was Week 6.
The Bills have the Bills, because we were in New Orleans, but everybody said, the Bills have a, kind of an inside track here to the number 1 seed and to hosting the AFC Championship game. And I think that matters more than, the motivation about, people saying the defense isn't really that good, or, people saying Zach Taylor's just kind of a passenger to Jamar and Joe, or really whatever there was. I think that mattered more. I think that's like Lou Anarumo came off, like we're all standing there right outside the locker room.
He's like, why are you guys quiet?
He's like, why are you guys, are we allowed to, how much are we allowed, am I allowed to drop an F-bomb?
I wouldn't. I think ass is good enough.
he said, why is everybody, why are you guys so quiet? Let's effing go. He was pretty pumped up.
He just said, let's go.
No, I think I heard him
there
say,
was an
let's
F-bomb.
go.
There was an F-bomb.
There was a lot of F-bombs being dropped.
Yeah, so, but I think that is kind of the overarching motivating factor for this team today was that forget the coin toss stuff. I think that very minimally, the neutral site stuff, I think that the refund stuff, I think this was kind of a moment for them to kind of say, okay, we are as good as these other teams. So I don't know if it was anybody said that this team necessarily couldn't do it again or anything like that. I think it was just about proving that they belong in that tier. Because the Buffalo Bills, again, the Bills are still a really, really good team.
They are.
And the Bills are going, we're talking about this game, and it's a one-off, and it's obviously, the Bengals are moving on, the Bills are going home. But this is a treat. Allen and Mahomes and Burrow are going to be doing this for a very long time every year in the playoffs.
It's going to be fun to watch.
And, heck, maybe Trevor Lawrence too. Depending.
Sure.
He looked really good the other night, and he's kind of getting better over the course of his career. We're gonna be here every year. So, but I think this was just about the Bengals kind of proving that they could do it year in and year out.
Yeah, I know a lot of Browns fans are probably thinking, well, what about Deshaun Watson? Obviously, he had kind of a weird situation, so who knows what he does next year? Who knows?
Well, let's make the playoffs, then we can talk.
Sure,
about
yeah.
and then Deshaun Watson can get brought up.
I know, but people are going to say, well, what about Deshaun? Because for a long time, he was in that conversation until everything went down with him. But, I think to tie it all up, and since you mentioned Anarumo, how fitting this is that we were talking about this. I think it was me and you, Andrew, when we were talking on the podcast Thursday, and I said this game is going to be decided by the red zone. Other things decided it too, but the biggest focal point of emphasis was red zone defense, and we saw that today. The red zone efficiency just about matched, what they had.
Bengals were 2 of 4. Bills were 1 of 3.
Yeah, and the Ravens were 1 of 4 last week, so it just about matched what they did to Baltimore last week. Granted, the Ravens had Tyler Huntley, but they still had a good run game that got them up to the red zone. So that's going to be huge against Patrick Mahomes, and obviously it's going to be interesting to see kind of what they do with him this week, because obviously he literally played on one leg against Jacksonville, so how much they rest him this week. He's going to play. He said he's going to play, but I like to see kind of how Mahomes looks and how the Bengals try to attack that. We'll talk more with Lou Anarumo about that this week, but how we wrap this up, guys? My 2 favorite words: game balls. Who's going to get a game ball?
My game ball is going to Lou Anarumo.
There you go.
He did a really, really nice job today. I thought, you kind of look at some of the numbers. The Bills didn't run the ball very well. Their leading rusher was Josh Allen. He had 3.3 yards a carry and a long of 6. Their longest rush of the day was 8 yards. They didn't really run the ball very well. Josh Allen put up 265 yards, but like I said, I kind of thought those were empty calories a little bit. Stephon Diggs, he was targeted 10 times. He only had 4 catches for 35 yards. They really, really took Diggs out of the game, and I think that was kind of their focus and their game plan, to really just take him away and force Josh Allen to feed the ball to Dawson Knox and Gabe Davis and things like that. So Lou Anarumo did I thought a bang up job kind of game planning for the Bengals here and putting them in the right spots to play well, because when you allow 10 points, there was, I forget exactly when, but it was the fewest points that they've scored since December of 2020 or something like that.
Yeah.
That's really impressive.
Since December of 2020?
That's what I thought I saw.
But that's last month.
2020?
2020.
Oh, 22. Oh, I thought you said 20.
Mike, let's move along here.
But
yeah, so December 2020. It's hard to kind of single out anybody on the defense for that. You could say it's Cam Taylor-Britt, somebody, you could kind of give it to a couple different guys, but I think Lou is kind of the overarching figure here, so he gets my game ball.
I'll give it to Ted Karras as a representative of the offensive line. They've sort of taken on his demeanor. He played through an injury today, banged up his knee. And it seemed like he was at the end of the first half, was really moving around kind of tough. He joked that they made it better at halftime, so you can kind of guess what that means. But obviously they all played well. But with the silent count throughout the game, the weather, he said it was very slippery. He said it was his first snow game. That there's a lot of challenges that presented it, and then he had that group rolling. So I'll give it to him.
I'm going to give mine to Cam Taylor-Britt. I'm going to follow up on that praise I had for him because it wasn't just the interception. It wasn't just the fact that he had 6 tackles and had to go against Stephon Diggs, one of the game's best receivers, and to handle him the way he did. It's not even just that. It's the fact that this is just one of many examples where he was thrown into the deep fray of the NFL his rookie year, unexpectedly, like we said back in Cleveland. He's done nothing but impress. He's learned from his mistakes, which are given being a rookie. But proud of the guy. He deserves the game ball, and we're going to see what he does next week going against Kansas City. And stay tuned with us as this week we're going to set the stage for the AFC Championship, as crazy as it is to let that roll off my tongue. AFC Championship, and the Bengals are just one win away from going back to the Super Bowl. Again, hard to believe, but we've made it this far. Stay tuned with us. We're going to break down everything you need to know about the big game with Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs as they rematch them at Arrowhead. But thank you again for joining us on this post-game pod edition. Once again, for myself, Andrew Gillis, and Mike Nizer, I'm Mohammed Ahmad. See you later this week.